Good day, everyone. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome and thank you for registering and joining us today for this training session. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. The world is facing challenges and difficult times, and we find ourselves trying to manage with the situation at hand. We hope that you and your families are all safe and remain safe. Many of us are trying to adapt to working from home, and we know that that can be quite challenging itself. So we've decided to host this webinar as well as the Scopus webinar, which will be scheduled for the 30th of April to assist researchers trying to access their entitlements remotely. Okay, I'm going to begin the recording of this session.
Cette conversation va être enregistrée.
Okay, so welcome everyone once again. I'd like to introduce our presenters for today. You may already be familiar with two of the faces on your screen, but we'd like to introduce and give a special thank you to Isaac B. Kudu for co-presenting with us today. Isaac will be delivering an introduction to Mendeley training. He is an environmental analytical chemistry researcher from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. We will also be having Khaled Shalan presenting, who will be delivering an introduction to Sciencedirect training. Khaled is a customer consultant for Elsevier covering the Sub-Saharan Africa region north, and myself, Daneshri Modli, I'll be delivering an introduction to the Researcher Academy and Sciencedirect training. I'm also a customer consultant covering Sub-Saharan Africa region south. A few housekeeping rules, please. Just to keep yourself on mute, kindly to pass any questions through the question and answer box only. So you will see on your screen the opportunity to use a chat facility as well as the question and answer box. If you have any questions related to the training, please put the question in the Q&A box on your screen. This box is being monitored by our colleagues who will be able to provide you with an answer to your question. The presentations from today's webinar will be shared with you on the Researcher Academy. To obtain the certificate for this course, you would have needed to register prior. The certificate for this course will be downloadable from the Researcher Academy once this training has been concluded. In order to download the certificate, you will require
L'enregistrement a été interrompu.
a workshop code. The workshop code will be given to you at the end of the webinar by Khaled Shalan. Please accordingly wait until the end of the webinar to receive the code. To be fair to those who have attended, we will not be providing the code outside of this webinar. Okay, our agenda for today, we're going to be breaking up this webinar into two parts. For part one, we'll be having introduction to Mendeley training, as well as introductions to the Researcher Academy and Sciencedirect. We'll be covering the importance of using Sciencedirect with a logged in account and how to create a Sciencedirect account. We'll also be covering remote access options by institutional email address as well as private email address. In part two of today's training, we'll be covering understanding Sciencedirect entitlements, Sciencedirect beyond PDFs, and a demonstration on finding journals and books, journal and book homepages, finding entitlements as well as journals accepting submissions, topic pages, finding current free content related to the coronavirus, finding Sciencedirect training videos, as well as support options and accessing chat support. And with this, I will now hand you over to Isaac, who is going to deliver an introduction to Mendeley training. Isaac, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to begin with your training now.
All right. Okay.
You can start, Isaac.
All right. Thank you, Daneshri. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Daneshri said, Isaac, a PhD student at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I'm pleased to give this brief introduction to Mendeley as part of this webinar. So we'll begin with what is Mendeley? Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, so Mendeley is a free reference manager that helps you organize your resources, to insert citations, and to compile your bibliography when you write up your research. And apart from being a reference manager, Mendeley has some extra features which are quite useful. The first one being that it's a cross-platform software which is compatible with Windows, Mac, Linux, or you can even have it installed on your mobile devices. The next feature is that you can use Mendeley as a social network platform. You can also use Mendeley as a data repository where you can store your data and also search for other data. You can search for job opportunities on Mendeley. And last but not least, Mendeley also has a funding database where you can search for funding opportunities. Next slide. So now we'll go into what you can do with Mendeley as a reference manager. Next slide. So there are these three core functions that you can use Mendeley for. The first one being how to add documents or Mendeley library. And then also you can organize your library to your preference, and then you can use your Mendeley software to insert citations from your Mendeley library as you write up your research. Next slide. But first and foremost, before you can use Mendeley, you first need to have your free account created. And you can do this by going to the Mendeley website and then create your free your free account. And after creating an account, you can download your Mendeley desktop application, and then you follow through the process and have it installed on your computer. Next slide. So after having Mendeley installed, there are various tools by which you can add documents to your library. And the first tool is using the File menu. So when you go to File, which you would find in the top left corner of your Mendeley desktop application, you see the option to add files, folders, to watch a folder, or to manually add your references. And this is simple. It's just like how we attach documents to emails that we want to send. I would want to highlight the watch a folder feature. With watch a folder, what you can do is that you select a folder on your device for Mendeley to watch. And what this means is that anytime you save any file into this folder, Mendeley automatically uploads the information and this file into your library. And that is quite a very useful feature. The next way also is to import. And this is useful in the event that you are transferring from any other reference manager to using Mendeley. So you can transfer or import your Zotero or EndNote library to your Mendeley library. And as I mentioned earlier, you can also manually add your references, and you do this by typing in the necessary bibliography details of the document. Next slide, please. The next tool I would like to talk about is the Mendeley Web Importer. The Mendeley Web Importer is a browser add-on that is available for Chrome, for Firefox, for Internet Explorer, and for Safari. So through your Mendeley desktop application and via your online account, you can have this add-on installed to your browser. And when you have this add-on, you are able to seamlessly save documents from the internet into your Mendeley library. Next slide. So this is how you can use, so in the event that you're browsing, you should see your Mendeley Web Importer icon. And when you click on this, you find this dialog box, which sort of searches the web page you are on. If there is an article, it picks the necessary bibliography information and then gives you the option to save or not. So when you click save, you automatically save this reference to your Mendeley library. Another feature is that you can use the Mendeley Web Importer to save web pages. So sometimes you need to reference web pages, but with Mendeley Web Importer, when you save the web page, it automatically saves to your library for you to cite in the future. Mendeley Suggest is also another tool for saving documents to your library. And Mendeley Suggest is a feature where Mendeley uses advanced machine learning algorithms to give you these suggestions based on your search history and the documents you have already saved in your library. So when you go to your online account, you see the Suggest tab. When you click on it, you have these series of references that are provided to you. And you can see that there is an option to add to library. So if you see any of these suggestions and you like to have this reference in your library, all you do is to click on add to library, and this reference is automatically included in your reference manager's library. You also have the option to go to the journal website to see the full text and also show similar articles. So when you click on show similar articles, you have a series of other related articles coming up. Next slide. Now I'll talk about the sync feature, and it's very important that when you add documents to your reference library, you remember to click on the sync. What sync does is that it reconciles your documents that are on your devices with what is in the cloud. So for instance, if you uploaded some document from your computer to your Mendeley desktop app and you click on sync, what it does is that it uploads these documents to the cloud. And if you were also browsing and you used the Mendeley Web Importer to save some documents to your library, when you click on the sync, it sort of brings down these new references to your computer. So that way you have a seamless way of saving all your documents, and you can access these on any of your devices once you are always syncing your library. Next slide, please. So now I'll talk about how to organize your library. Mendeley comes with some preset folder for you to organize your library. And as you can see on the left side, you can, at the top, you see all items in your personal library. So in this folder, you have all the documents that you have in your library. There is also recently added. So this gives you a list of all references that you added in the last 2 weeks. There's also a folder which shows you documents that you recently read. You also have a place to save your favorites. So if you happen to star some documents in your library, Mendeley automatically saves them here. It also gives you a list of references that you are yet to review. So that gives you a chance to know your progress. Additionally, Mendeley also gives you the option to create folders. So if you're working on a project which has various aspects and you rather want to sort of categorize your references, you can create folders, name them accordingly, and then save your references into these folders. And this helps you to manage your references very well. Next slide. Now I'll talk about how to cite your references when you are writing. And to make it possible for you to cite, you first need to have your MS Word or LibreOffice plugin installed. And you can do this by going to the Tools menu in your Mendeley desktop application. So when you click on the Tools menu, you have these options. So if you're a Word a word processor user, you just install your MS Word. And when you install the MS Word, you have, next slide, please. After installing the Mendeley plugin, you have a band that would reference a Mendeley reference band that shows on your word processor. So if you're writing and you need to insert a citation, all you need to do is to click on Insert a Citation, and then you have this dialog box opening up for you. So with this dialog box, you can start by typing a keyword in the title of the article. So you see that a series of articles with the keyword in their titles pop up for you. Then you can select the one you're interested in, and then you click OK. Another option is that you can just go directly to Mendeley. So you see Go to Mendeley, and this will open your library for you. And then you sort of search for the reference of interest, and then you click OK, and this will be inserted in your write-up. Next slide. So if you are done with a paragraph or a chapter and you have your various citations inserted and you want to build up your bibliography, all you need to do is go to that Mendeley reference band on your word processor, click on Insert Bibliography, and then you have Mendeley automatically giving you a list of all the citations you made. And you also have the opportunity to select a particular reference style. So it doesn't matter which style you have. Mendeley has a great number of citation styles that you can select. So once you select the styles, Mendeley will compile your bibliography accordingly. Next slide. So now I'll talk about what you can do with Mendeley as a social network platform. Next slide. Yes. So with Mendeley as a social network platform, just like all other social network platforms, you can create your research profile. It gives you the option to have your institution affiliation, your photograph, and then your area of expertise. And with this research profile, you are able to also see other researchers and gives you the opportunity to connect with colleagues. It also has
Hi, Isaac.
Introducing yourself. Hello.
Sorry, you broke up for a second there. Can you just repeat your last sentence?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. So am I back now?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Okay. So just to recap slightly, as I said, you can create your research profile, and with your research profile, you can connect with colleagues. You can also have statistics about your research. You see the number of people who have read your work. You have the opportunity to also include something about yourself, a way to promote your work to a global audience. And you also have the opportunity to upload some of your publications. And with this feature, people are able to share in your work and to read it and eventually cite you. Next slide. One feature with the Mendeley as a social network, which is quite good, is the groups feature. So with the group, you can create a group and invite people to join. What this does is that, assuming you probably want to create a group on climate change or microplastics, you can create this group and then invite people. You also have the option of making the group public or private, and I'll be talking more about private groups a little later. So you create this group and then you can invite people who are in this field together with you, and you can share more ideas and collaborate. Next slide. Next slide. Created, you can also browse and then join. And the private groups, with private groups, you need to be invited to join. And one other capability of private groups is that it gives you the opportunity to share full text documents, and also gives your group members the opportunity to make their notes, annotate, and Mendeley has a way of color coding each person, so that if you are a research team and you are spread across the globe, this is not a problem. You can all individually work on the same document as part of your research. Next slide. So now I'll just conclude with some personal favorite features I have about using Mendeley. The first one is the personalized Mendeley suggestions. And I did mention earlier that it uses machine learning algorithms to sort of put this list together for you. You can also set up an alert system where you get these notifications in your inbox. So what I have done is I have it set up so I get notifications on these suggestions in my inbox, and I just go through and then go further to read the ones that are of interest to me. The second feature that I like is the cloud storage. With cloud storage, this gives me convenient access to my library. It doesn't matter which device I want to access on. So if I go to the lab, I have Mendeley installed on my desktop. I can access all my documents in the library. If I come back home, want to use my laptop, once I made sure I synced my library before leaving, once I get back home, I am assured that I would have access to the documents that are on my desktop at work. And last but not least is the web importer, which I highlighted earlier. And for me, this gives me an efficient way of saving and documents to my library, and also gives me the opportunity to save web pages. So these three, I would say, are my personal favorites, though there are also other very interesting features in Mendeley. So with this, I come to the end of my brief introduction to Mendeley, and you can always reach out to Mendeley if you have any further questions or need as to how to better use Mendeley. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Thanks for that
Yes.
wonderful and informative introductory training to Mendeley.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're just going to move forward with the presentation now. I'm going to introduce you to the Researcher Academy. So the website address for the Researcher Academy is displayed on your screen now. The Researcher Academy is a free resource containing e-learning modules developed by global experts. The website to access it is www.researcheracademy.com. And if you have an existing Elsevier account, you can log on with your credentials. If not, you'll be prompted to create an account. And once you have access to the Researcher Academy, you will be able to access modules about the research process and publishing, career guidance and advice, as well as research news on our blog. So why Researcher Academy? You can master essential skills, pick up practical skills and solid professional development advice, learn from the best, access high-quality content developed by leading research experts, and maximize your impact. Learn how to make your research stand out and garner those all-important citations. The Researcher Academy has more than 60 modules created by research experts, more than 100 videos, and downloadable guides and tools. Whether you're interested in writing an article or book, learning how to conduct peer review for a high-impact journal, understanding research and publishing ethics, or preparing a successful grant application, the Researcher Academy has the resources to assist. Dedicated training takes time and effort, and we believe successful researchers should be recognized for this. For each interactive training module or online seminar that you complete, your work will be recognized with an awarded certificate from Elsevier. Okay. Now, just to introduce you to Sciencedirect as well. Sciencedirect is a platform that hosts over 3,800 journals and more than 39,000 books, over 14 million peer-reviewed publications, and growing from Elsevier, our imprints, and our society partners. We have approximately 13 million topic pages views per month, 25 million monthly unique visitors, over 1 billion article and chapter downloads per year. And in 2019, we released 25,000 releases with a platform uptime of 99.82%. 78% of the searches performed on Sciencedirect are interdisciplinary. And we have over 15,000 books accessed together with journal articles on Sciencedirect, as well as 1.7 million recommendation emails sent per month. Interdisciplinary research gives rise for the need to access books to broaden your knowledge. Later in this webinar, Khaled Shalan will be introducing you to the Sciencedirect topics pages, which are embedded links in a journal article which leads you to relevant book content. The recommendations on Sciencedirect platform become far more specific and directed when you are logged on with your username and password. The number on your screen, between 400,000 and 500,000, are the average number of times per month Sciencedirect users co-use books and journals. Leading on from our point of interdisciplinary research, this is the number of times that our users go between book and article content. Using reference books and journals in conjunction provides researchers with a full picture of the subject area. To create a Sciencedirect account, you will need to go to www.sciencedirect.com and select Register. You'll be taken to a form to complete your first name, your last name, your email address, and password. An important point to note at this point is if you're entering an email address and you're trying to gain access to your Sciencedirect entitlements remotely, the email address that we would recommend that you use is the email address that's associated with your university or institution or organization. So try and use that email address to create the account because it makes activating remote access a little more simpler for you. Other benefits of using a signed-in account include access to personalized recommendations. Sciencedirect will also email you recommendations. You'll be able to set alerts as well as view your reading history. I have included a tutorial on how to create your account at the bottom of the slide. Personal recommendations. Once you have created and signed into your Sciencedirect account, your name will be displayed. If you click on it, you will be able to see the My Recommendations menu option. When logged onto your Sciencedirect account, the platform will recognize you as a user, understand your search patterns and user behavior. Sciencedirect will make an analysis based on what you are researching and lead you to tailored recommendations, which will reduce the time it takes you to find relevant literature. It will act as your partner in research, as long as you are signed on to your account. The reading history saves the last 100 read articles. And when you're signed onto your account, you will have the option to activate remote access on your own. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom of any Sciencedirect page, you will see the option Remote Access. There are two ways that we'll be discussing today on how to activate remote access for all of us who are working outside of our institution. The first option is that you have an institutional email address. If you do, and you've created your account, and you are logged onto your account, scrolling to the bottom of the page and selecting Remote Access will take you to the next menu option to enter your email address. So it will either pre-populate your organizational or institutional email address, or you'll need to insert it into this field. You'll click on Continue. You might be prompted to select your organization if you have more than one organization linked to your Sciencedirect account. And thereafter, an email will be sent to the address that you specified, containing a link to activate your account. This is what the email will look like. The link, Activate Your Remote Access, must be clicked. If you haven't received the email in your inbox, please ensure that you check your spam or junk folder if you can't find it. And once you've clicked on the link, you enter your password and you'll be ready to access your entitlements. Therefore, it's much easier to use or to access your entitlements if you create your account with your institutional email address or organizational email address. The other option is if you don't have an institutional email address. In this case, we recommend that you contact your research administrator or librarian. The librarian will send you a registration code and a password with instructions. However, just to take you through the process, you go to sciencedirect.com and sign into your account. You need to visit this website, which is when you'll be prompted to enter in your registration ID and the registration password. This would have been sent to you by your librarian. After you've entered in that information, you'll be asked to log into your Sciencedirect account, and you'll be ready to access your entitlements. Once you're signed in, you just need to search for your content and check if you have access. I'd like to also demonstrate this to you. So if I could just share my screen quickly. Okay, so if you're signed into your Sciencedirect account, you will see your username at the top. As I explained, you'll be able to access your recommendations and your reading history. Now, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, you'll see a little option that says Remote Access. It will, as I said, either pre-populate the address for you or you'll need to put in your institutional email address. And it would have sent a confirmation email to your email address. You need to click on the link to activate your remote access. So if I do a quick send and receive, I see the email has come through. And as you can see, it contains the link that says activate your remote access. If you click on that link, you will see a message, congratulations, you have activated remote access. Remember to log in when outside your institution. This process just needs to be followed once. You don't need to activate it every time you access the platform. Once you have access, you just need to log in with your username and password and browse on Sciencedirect. Okay. With that, I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Khaled, who will take us through the second part of this webinar.
Thank you, Danishi. Thank you. All right, so I'll be picking on from here. Just let me share my screen. Should be visible by now. Okay, so let me walk you through the second part of our presentation today. So we're going to be discussing understanding the entitlements on Sciencedirect. Also understanding what other than PDFs can Sciencedirect help me with my research. And understanding a few features on the live demo on Sciencedirect as well. So in general, so Sciencedirect, once again, is the home of what all that Elsevier publishes, all the journals, all the books, high quality research. Around 31% of the journals are ranked #1 in their fields. It has the highest relative citation impact amongst book publishers, and it's 18% of all that's being published worldwide, achieving over 26% of all the citations being made. So in general, entitlements or subscription-based articles are categorized into subject collections. There are different subject collections, as you can see over the screen, showing the number of journals belonging to each of the subject collections. And it's worth mentioning that the same journal can belong to different subject collections at the same time if it covers a broad area of topics. In general, these subject collections, your school could be subscribed to one or more of the subject collections that you can see on the screen. And also, sometimes these subject collections can be bundled up. Institutions with access to what's called the Freedom Collection have access to all the content in all the subject collections. These are 1850 active titles, covering all the subject collections and going back to either 1995 or 2015, based on your college or university subscription. Articles beyond or going older than 1995 have a separate subscription, and there are some content that are being part of special collections. These are usually very elite journals that are requested on a title by title basis, like Cell Press, The Lancet, Clinics Reviews, and Society Journals. In addition to that, there are some other collections like journals being in French or in Spanish as well. Another part to add is the Elsevier Ebooks. So Elsevier publishes around 40,000 different books. And because of the current pandemic and as an attempt to support teaching processes going on online, we have added to all the subscriptions, we've added all Elsevier textbooks are now added to your subscription. To be able to access those Elsevier textbooks, you need to be activating your remote access. So these are added as part of your current subscriptions on Sciencedirect. You can access all the list of the 256 textbooks that are being added to your account on the link shown on the screen here, bit.ly/els-textbooks. So in general, let's walk through a little bit Sciencedirect before we go into the demo mode now. So in general, that's the current interface that you will see on Sciencedirect, and the banner that you see here changes along the time. You can do your search on Sciencedirect, searching by keywords, by author names, by journal title, by volume, issue, and pages. And you can see all the current journals and books available from this point here. And you can see your account as well. You can explore featured topics and papers in different fields, physical sciences and engineering, life sciences, health sciences, social sciences, and humanities. So what other than PDFs can Sciencedirect help you with? In general, every article that's on Sciencedirect has a web page. So the entire content of the article will be enlisted in a web page format. If you have access to the title or to the journal or to the book containing the book chapter, you'll be able to see more than the abstract. You'll be seeing the abstract and the full text. One of the new things or the new tricks that we've added to this web page format is that it starts to recognize different technical keywords mentioned in the article, and these links are clickable. If you click on any of those links, you will be sent to a topic page. So a topic page is meant to give you a very brief overview on a specific topic. It has the definition, and it has the important excerpts taken from Elsevier books. Whether or not you have access to this Elsevier book is irrelevant. The excerpts available on the topic page are accessible for everyone. So alternatively, instead of going to the article and then finding which topics are mentioned in the article and going to the topic page, you can navigate directly to the topic pages at www.sciencedirect.com/topics. And you can see a list of more than 300,000 topic pages being added continuously. And you can see sometimes the same topic page can be mentioned with relevance to different fields as well. So it's a good starting point if you want to get started on a topic, and you can reach out to read the full chapter for any of those topics being mentioned or any of those excerpts being mentioned. So this gives you a better workflow when you are reading and you want to check some of the articles being mentioned in the article you're reading. In addition, figures from the articles are compiled together, and you can download the figures in high resolution format. So instead of getting the PDF and cropping an image out in very low resolution, you can actually check for the figure on the web page, and you can download it in high resolution. You can also navigate to different parts of the article by clicking on which section you want to jump through. And sometimes there is more to the data being mentioned in an article than the figures. So sometimes there are actual data sets being added through Mendeley data or so repositories for research data. All of these points will be listed below the figures section on the article. Sometimes we do visualize the coordinates from a paper on a geospatial data on Google Maps, and these will be added to the relevant articles as well. And we're working on new formats for visualizing the data, like interactive plots, Google Maps, 3D models, and virtual microscope. This is still a work in progress, so you'll be able to find these features or the visualizations on a growing number of the articles, but it's still a work in progress to be covering all the articles on Sciencedirect. Once you click on the download PDF part and you are seeking actively to get the PDF file, you will be taken to what we call the enhanced reader on Sciencedirect. So you are seeing now the exact replication of the print, but with enhanced features like adding comments and adding them to Mendeley library. In addition, you can also, if you click on any of the references, you will be able to see this reference side by side with the article you're reading. So if you have access to that other article, because for example, it's on Sciencedirect, you'll be able to see both full text side by side. If that article is not something within your entitlements, for example, from another publisher, you'll be able to see the abstract obtained from Scopus for this article. So at least you get an idea of what that other paper being referenced while you're reading is referring to. You can add your comments as well and add them directly through this button to your Mendeley library directly. In addition, there is this part of the recommended articles that you can see on the web page and you can see on the PDFs as well. On the web page and the PDF, you can see recommended articles. And this uses some artificial intelligence, similar to what you would see on Netflix, on LinkedIn, on Spotify, Amazon, and the others. And that part, the AI part, it depends on determining your reading patterns. In addition to trying to compare your reading patterns to other people's reading patterns, to the different indexation techniques being implemented, and adding them all to give you recommended articles. My own personal experience of using the recommended articles on Sciencedirect is that it took me to some articles I've never considered before actually reading. So at least you're saving the time for the search. That would be the minimum. But at the best case scenario, you will actually be discovering some articles you would have never thought of searching for yourself. So there is more to learn about Sciencedirect on conducting searches, on using alerts, and a lot of different features that you can actually use. You can find more on this link here, bit.ly/sd-tutorials, and you'll be taken to a number of FAQs and videos for different features that you can use on Sciencedirect as well. So for now, I'll be jumping forward to the demo part, and if you allow me. So this is what Sciencedirect would look like for you. And you can see here, I'm already signed in. I've activated the remote access on my part, and now I can access my Sciencedirect entitlements remotely. You'll see here there is a notification about a novel coronavirus information center. All the articles being relevant to coronavirus are now available for free on Sciencedirect, free for anyone to read. These are available whether or not you are signed into your remote access account. And you can see them, they're being curated and they are being updated regularly as well. So in general, if I want to check my entitlements, I will go here to journals and books. And I'll be able to see more than 4,000 journals that are published by Elsevier and more than 29,000 books and book series being available on Elsevier as well. I can refine my publications by domain and by subdomain. So for example, I can go check which cover chemistry and then check which cover spectroscopy, for example. And now I can see that there are 106 publications. Some of them are journals, books, handbooks, reference works, and book series. Not all the journals are always active. So sometimes a journal used to be active till a few years back, or sometimes it just stopped publishing or it changed titles, for example. So if I want to check which of these journals still is active and accepts new submissions, I can click on this button here. And I'll be able to see that, okay, so there are 29 journals on chemistry covering spectroscopy that I can actually access. If I click on these, I can see there are different markers here. Open access, contains open access. So what does these mean? Open access means that this journals, all the articles covering this journal are available for anyone to read, whether or not they are subscribed to Sciencedirect. And this journal only publishes papers under the gold open access model. Means that you have to pay an APC, an article processing charge, to get your research published in this journal. In this case, this is a mirror journal having a sister journal that's not fully gold open access. So this one, Analytica Chimica Acta, this is a subscription-based journal offering you an option to have some of the articles available as gold open access, either what we call a hybrid model or having a delayed open access model. More on these models you can find in one of our author workshops where we cover in more details the different options to get your article published. So contains open access means that it's basically a subscription model article. So it's free to publish in, but a reader needs to have a subscription to read the articles. And contains means that few of the articles are published under open access, either a hybrid uptake model or a gold or a delayed open access model. I can actually check by access type for subscribed and complimentary, open access, which are completely or fully gold open access articles, and open and contains open access. If I want to check my entire entitlements and subscriptions, I can download the holdings report. So the holding reports will give me an Excel file of every journal and every book on the Sciencedirect, showing me its status, whether it's covered in my subscription or not. So I can download it in Excel format, XML, or CSV, or KBart. Okay, and I'll be able to see all the titles and my subscription status to each of those. So, moreover, going back, I can go back to Sciencedirect itself and I can do a search using keywords. For example, for this case, I'm gonna write a word, piezoelectric. I can use Boolean operators, but they have to be capitalized. Let's say, for example, these are two keywords. I can click on my search now. And I'll be able to see all the full text articles that cover both keywords that I've added. There is, for this search, there's 28,599 results. I can set a search alert. This will mean I'll be asking Sciencedirect to send me an email every time there is a new article that's added that meets my search criteria. I can refine by subscribed journals to see which of these articles require a subscription. I can filter by year, by article type, whether it's a review article, research article, encyclopedia, or a book chapter. I can see which journals or books these come from, and I can check if I only want open access or open archive titles as well. Some of these articles will have a future publishing date. So for example, this one here, you can see 1st of June, 2020. So this is still an article in press. I can actually check, and you can see that some of the articles are already being scheduled for publishing for 2021, and they are still available for you to download. If you are signed in, one of the good features you get is that you can mark on multiple articles and download them in bulk all at once. Or I can actually, they are downloaded in a zip file. There are some constraints to downloading articles, multiple articles in this method. You have up to 100 documents being downloaded in bulk per day. After that, you can still download more articles, but you will have to do them one by one. If I check one of the articles, and let's say an article that's or not in press or an article that's a bit older, to actually be able to see some of the new features that are being discussed. If I go over here, for example, I can see the name of the journal and I can visit the journal webpage as seen before. These are the recommended articles, the figures, the abstract, and I can actually see the full text for this article. Takes a little while to populate. You can see more information on the article itself. I'm having a little bit of a browser issue. Sorry about that. We can check another article. It's still loading. Yes, it's still loading the mathematical formula being added to this article. I can go over and check the PDF as well. Download the article or a full issue. I can download up to 10 journal full issues per day. So that would be also downloading in bulk. If I click on download this article, so as you can see here, this is the PDF format for the article itself. Still loading. In any way, it seems that my browser might be a bit out of date. I can actually browse to the previous article in issue and the next article in issue as well. These are some of the recommendations being added to this based on my reading patterns, based on what people read, and based also on the different internal indexation or some artificial intelligence to understand the relationship between the different articles. I can go over to any other article as well. And it's the same here as well. If I click on any of the references, I can see them online side by side, same to what I can see also at the PDF. I can view the record in Scopus and check the abstract as I'm reading as well. So we've also mentioned that you can also use Sciencedirect to browse the topic pages directly. So sciencedirect.com/topics. Sometimes the topic pages are not linked within an article. If an article is still new, it takes time to be integrated into an article. I can actually do a search for any specific topic, and let's say I'll say gross domestic product, and I can see that same article being mentioned with relevance to different fields. So for this one, I'm gonna need to see, okay, how it pertains to people from economics, econometrics, and finance. If I go over there, so these are some of the excerpts from different Elsevier books. I can check the full book and go forward to it. I can check some of the figures and the tables being included or the equations as well. I can download this entire topic page directly. If I go up here, I can actually download it as PDF or set an alert whenever anything is being added. You can see here there was no direct definition being extracted for this article. This happens at times. You might be able to find the direct definition on the article being curated for different fields. So if I go back and check one of the gross domestic product being mentioned on other topics, I can see it as well. You can see related terms like interest rate, macroeconomics, economic growth, unemployment, cash flow, and I can check all the topics as well. Okay, so what else I can actually do? At any time, if I'm browsing on Sciencedirect, at any given page, if I scroll down to the very bottom, on the footer for any Sciencedirect page, I can go over to contact support. And there are different methods for contacting support. Our preferred method would be to actually use chat, but this has different, this has specific working hours available. So you can actually chat here. So you'll have your data imported. So these are the same data I have on my profile. I can say my role, and these are the working hours for the chat. So Monday to Friday on working days, it's a 24-hour service, and it's partial service for 9 hours on Saturday and on less hours on Sunday. And the times being shown here are in CDT time zone, so you can actually convert it to your own time zone as well. So that would be a wrap up for our demonstration today. If I go back to the slides, you can actually see that we've covered all of these. So for the finding free content related to coronavirus, you can just click directly on the banner being available on the Sciencedirect homepage, or you can actually go to our novel coronavirus resource directory. So these are classified by what kind of user are you, or what do you do, or how would you need the resources. If you are a healthcare provider, there is a portal for healthcare providers to access resources from Elsevier on Sciencedirect and other solutions that relates to their work. If you are an academic researcher, there is a portal as well on the novel coronavirus resource directory. The health educators and students, R&D professionals and engineers, health educators and students, and librarians. Another format for the resources is the information center that was shown on the Sciencedirect homepage. And these are updated regularly. So that screenshot was actually taken on April 20th at night. If I taken a more recent screenshot, I'll be able to see it updated till the day we're in, or maybe times the last day. So these are curated content in a more of like a blog format. So they have the updates arranged by time. Clinical information, public health, patient resources, research or drug discovery, and there is a portal in Chinese as well. So it's the same resources available on the directory, just in a different format. There are more than 22,000 articles that are available for free on Sciencedirect. Anything pertaining to coronavirus is published under free access terms. So what does this mean? It means that if an article is published under open access model, like if it's published gold open access, it will remain forever for free because the author already covered, it was covered in the agreement for publishing for the author to make that article forever available for free. If that article is being published under a subscription model, then it will be temporarily, during the pandemic, it will be available for free. After the pandemic is over, it will go back to being part of only the subscriptions. So once again, this would be the conclusion for our webinar today. And I'd like to remind you of the Researcher Academy website that Danishi has mentioned earlier on the presentation. So please go to ResearcherAcademy.com and make sure you're signed in. So you can sign in by clicking on this little fella here. And you can use the same username and password that you're using on Sciencedirect, Scopus, Mendeley, or any of Elsevier solutions. They use the same username and password. Once you are signed in, I'm gonna need you to show you a bit down the road how to get your certificate. You can also keep in updates with our you can keep updated with our webinars, with all our different programs on our Facebook page, Elsevier Africa, facebook.com/Elsevier Africa. There's also a Twitter account. Sometimes we do host our webinars on a Bright Talk channel. Sometimes they are on Zoom webinar. You can always check our Bright Talk channel as well, Elsevier's training. And you can also check our Facebook group, Elsevier Community. This is a channel to get in touch with you, to have discussions. I know we are having many posts on our log that are pending review. We will be updating some of the rules and establishing a clear publishing policy for getting your posts on the group as well. You can also find more resources on ResearcherAcademy.com, as I mentioned, elsevier.com/authors or reviewers or editors as well. So that would be the end of our webinar today. And to be able to access your certificate, you would need to actually visit this ResearcherAcademy.com. Sorry. I think I'm going to share the screen again.
Khaled, also, before we end, there's been a few questions about, this is a bit not related to Sciencedirect, but a lot of people have asked if they can use Mendeley for citing in Arabic. So I'm not sure if you've received this question from some of your customers. I thought I'd
I've
just
answered,
ask.
Yeah, I've answered some of these questions on the Q&A window. You can use you can use Mendeley to reference articles in different languages. Just be sure that most of the articles that you'll find in local languages, not just Arabic, sometimes they do not have what's called the metadata attached properly to the website. So in general, to be able to do that, you would need to sometimes add the references manually to Mendeley to be able to do that.
Thanks. And can we also launch our poll to find out if the people that are attending are interested in more intensive Mendeley training? So if you can just, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So
I've
if
actually
everyone
launched the poll.
Thank you.
You can find here for the certificate, you can go to ResearcherAcademy.com, sign in. Once you're signed in, you can go to this link here, which is the same link you've used for your registration. It gets you to the same page and enter this claim code. You'll be asked to answer a survey of 6 questions. The last question is actually, sorry. The last question is a text question, so you need to insert any text for it to be acceptable. It's a question asking you for what you want to be covered on the next webinars as well. So I'm gonna go, do we have time to maybe take 1 or 2 questions, Danishi?
Yeah, and a general question. A lot of people have asked, how does Sciencedirect differ from Scopus?
Okay, so one of the differences you will find between Sciencedirect and Scopus, Sciencedirect is a full text publishing platform. So this is where Elsevier digitally publishes any article or book chapter related to any of the journals and books being published by Elsevier. That being said, Scopus is a database that collects information about the articles being published from more than 5,000 publishers. So it's an abstract database, and it also tracks the citations because it tracks the references from each article, so Scopus can collect who is citing who. So if Sciencedirect has 60 million articles, Scopus has more than 70 million actually articles from more than 5,000 publishers as well. Almost all, but not all Sciencedirect journals are currently indexed in Scopus. One of the examples for this is sometimes an article needs to, a journal needs to have at least 2 years of track record before it can get indexed into Scopus. It's the same treatment for any publisher. So if one of our new journals has spent less than 2 years, it would not be indexed into Scopus because Scopus has criteria for quality assessment for the journal to be indexed, and it requires a track record to do so as well.
Okay. I think that answers it. There are a lot of questions. What's the advantage of remote access? Do you want to answer that one? Or...
Okay, so if you're, if you can, so if I'm using Sciencedirect from home, I can only access the free content and the open access content, which is something like around a little bit higher than 20% of all the content on Sciencedirect. If I have a freedom collection, then I can access more than 95% of the content on Sciencedirect that's being available, or actually more than 9. I think it goes a bit closer to 100%. So in order to actually access your entitlements, what your university is subscribed or your consortium is subscribed for, you will need to use the remote access on Sciencedirect.
And this also answers the other question that's been submitted. If my university does not subscribe to Sciencedirect, can I use it? You can create a free account and use the free content or open access content. So that should be fine. Somebody's asked you a question directly. Dear Khaled, do you mean by using Web Importer to import reference format from Google Scholar when you were speaking about
Okay.
Web Importer?
Okay, so I think this question because I answered the first part to it in text. So the question started with, okay, sometimes I find inaccuracies when I'm downloading, if I'm importing data into Mendeley. And the thing is, when you're using drag and drop for on Mendeley desktop, for example, like these, some of the articles here have been added by drag and drop. And sometimes you can see some inaccuracies. So for example, this is being entirely in Chinese. I don't think I'm reading Chinese articles, but this file has a little bit of corrupt part to having its details read automatically. I can solve this by different ways. One of the ways is to right click and update details. Another way is that I can actually type in manually, and I can use this if I'm using Arabic references, for example, and the metadata are just not there. So I can actually type in the data that will be included in the citation by hand. Another thing is, for more accuracy when I'm importing data, I can use one of two things. So you've actually mentioned one that I don't get to mention much. So this is the Mendeley Web Importer. You can download it from mendeley.com. Go to downloads and you can download the Mendeley Web Importer. It works with Chrome, with Firefox, with Microsoft Edge, formerly Internet Explorer. And whenever I am reading any article, or I have any article on page, for example, this one, or it can be from any publisher, or if I'm using Google Scholar, or anything that's listed in a web page, Mendeley Web Importer will try to, sorry, I have to sign in actually. It will try to recognize any article being mentioned. So for this case, it will be able to detect the main article being mentioned here, as well as all the articles being mentioned in the reference list below. And I can click with a single click, I can actually click to have them added automatically to my library, either as bibliographic data or as full text. Mendeley will try to fetch the PDF. I'm really having issues with my browser today. Sorry about this.
It's okay. While we're waiting, just to tell everyone that's been asking for the presentations, we will upload it. You will be notified once the presentations have been uploaded.
So in any way, I think, okay. I'm gonna work with, I'm gonna need to restart my browser when a glitch like this happens. In any way, there is an option to actually include the full text when they are being imported to Mendeley. If I'm using Google Scholar or any other publisher, so for example, let's go just there. There's always the option to download the citation data in RIF format. So I can say anything, okay, whatever example I've used before in one of the sessions. I can actually check the citation and actually download it in, I can actually download all of these formats are actually can be imported or can be read by Mendeley as well. So I will just go to Mendeley, either drag and drop the file, the RIS file I downloaded here, or I can click on file and import the different formats that I can actually download. If I'm using LaTeX, because we are receiving a lot of questions on LaTeX, for LaTeX, you can select which articles that are pertaining to the article you're writing. For example, these 3 articles or 4 articles are related to something I'm writing on LaTeX. I can actually export these articles and generate the BibTeX file automatically. And LaTeX users, you already know how to use the BibTeX file along with the LaTeX as well. So Mendeley can help you generate the BibTeX file for your LaTeX. I hope that answers some of the questions. Do you find any?
Just for those asking about the Scopus webinar on Wednesday, you can still register for the webinar. So you just need to go to the Elsevier community page. you will see the post that we've put up for the Scopus webinar. There's 2 links on the post. One is to register for the Zoom webinar and the other to register for the certificate. Please make sure you sign up for both. And yes, you still have time to register for that.
Is that on Thursday, not Wednesday, right, Danishi?
Sorry, my mistake. That is Thursday on the 30th. Yes, my mistake. So I'm just going through the questions to see if there's anything. Mainly about the next webinar.